Well, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, strong safety has been an issue for the Steelers this season. They let Terrell Edmonds go last season. He's probably available again this season after being moved around everywhere and anywhere. Finishing up with the Titans after moving on to the Eagles. Ended up, basically getting off their roster pretty quickly. But it is an issue for the Steelers. They do have Keanu Neal under contract. Keanu Neal was injured most of the year, or at least a good portion of the year. I think it ended up being more than half the games. Problem, I don't think he's a solution either. We talked about some draft picks last week when we did the show, and we'll continue to talk about them as we go through the combine. Although by the time we get to the combine, my favorite guy at strong safety, or my draft crush at strong safety, will probably prove that he's worth a higher pick than the Steelers will allow. So that'll be disappointing. But Shannon, you wrote a really good article on Fan First Sports with Steel Curtain Network there around strong safety. And I saw I got a tweet this week from a guy still Sanctuary. I saw his tweet around Kyle Duggar, who I really like too. I did a bit of a comparison on Kyle Duggar through a tool from Pro Football Reference called StatHead, which is you're actually got to pay for. But Terrell Edmonds, Kyle Duggar, and Cameron Curl, Cameron Curl was featured in your article. A guy I've always liked. I've forgotten that he could be available this year in free agency. It's kind of interesting because Terrell Edmonds has played an extra, so Kyle Duggar and Cameron Curl have both played 60 games. Kyle Duggar's actually played 61. Terrell Edmonds has played 95 games. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's been around a little bit longer. That's why. Terrell Edmonds has the most sacks with 7.5. Duggar has 2.5. Cameron Curl has 5. You look at tackles, Edmonds has more. That makes sense because he's been around longer. Kyle Duggar has 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. Cameron Curl has 1 forced fumble, 2 recoveries. Terrell Edmonds has 1 and 1. Interceptions wise, Duggar's got 9, and he was played all over and everywhere in the Patriots defense. It also means he's quite smart because that's a complex defense with Belichick. Mm-hmm. Cameron Curl's got 3 interceptions, and Terrell Edmonds has 6. We obviously know Terrell Edmonds in his first year, the Steelers played a lot of more free safety or deep safety, not necessarily strong safety, but very adaptable, very athletic. The worst thing that he ever did was just get drafted where he get drafted. Yep. It's good for him money-wise, but Steelers fans hate it. And it's actually, if you look at his actual statistical performance, he's actually what an average first-round safety actually gets, which I used to say to people until I was blue in the face, and people hated that. But I guess if I'm asking these 3 guys, and I know it also depends on what they do on the field and the tape, I think Cameron Curl and Edmonds is probably the cheapest out of these guys just because of what happened to him in the last year. But there is the bad blood with the Steelers, so he might cost the Steelers if they want to go out with him a bit more. Duggar, I think, is someone, in my opinion, the Patriots would be silly to try to lose, which is why I haven't talked about him till now. I was talking about him a little bit mid-season about could they go out and get him in the trade market before the deadline. That was going to be over Bill Belichick's dead body. But they've had a coaching change, right?
Yes.
And a GM change. And then you got a guy like Cameron Curl out there. And I think Cameron Curl's kind of like the perfect balance between Edmonds and Duggar in terms of, youth, contract value, potential, all those things wrapped into one. But you wrote the article. If you're given these 3 names and you've got about $5-6 million to spend in free agency, which horse are you putting your money on?
Well, I think that the whole deal with Edmonds, it comes down to respect. It wasn't about the money. He wanted 2 to 3 year contract. He wanted stability, knowing he was going to be there. And, you want to feel respected and valued. And I think that became a point of contention when they wouldn't offer him extended contract. Yeah. And that was a huge mistake, huge monumental mistake by the Steelers. I don't know who made that decision, but in one of my final articles and podcasts before last season started, they said, what's your biggest concern going into this year? Well, I was always concerned about Matt Canada, but I thought that they had turned the page and was starting to, going to do better. So I said that it was Minkah Fitzpatrick because I didn't think that they had an adequate replacement for Edmonds. Well, I was definitely right. Because he is not a strong safety. Neal has been moved to a box linebacker safety hybrid because he cannot run well. And people didn't understand Terrell Edmonds wasn't a splash play guy, but he was super durable, super reliable, and you could count on him to be in the right place. And he run down a lot of mistakes and missed tackles by people in the secondary for the Steelers because he had really legit 4-4 speed.
Yeah.
So they missed him terribly. Well, Minka Fitzpatrick is a warrior, just like Edmonds. And he's like, I see a need, I'm going to fill a need. But the problem is it took him away from being the best ball hawking free safety in the NFL.
Yeah.
So you took his elite quality and you made him average. And it was heartbreaking to see. But I admire the heck out of Fitzpatrick for being willing to do it. But when you look at it, I'm like you. I never thought Duggar was get out of New England. But Belichick is gone. And you get new coaching staff, and they like to bring in their guys. And I think he might hit the market. He's a brilliant player. To play for Belichick, especially if he moves you around, you got to really have a high football IQ. And that young man has it.
Can you imagine him like Tomlin moving around? Fitzpatrick.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, it would allow you'd have two guys that are flexible and can move. Duggar he's not Edmonds as a tight end cover, but he's better than anything the Steelers had last year. Because once Holcomb and Alexander went down, the tight ends, the Steelers got roasted. You remember the Cardinals and the Colts they abused the Steelers. Their tight ends did. So I like Curl for the same reason. And here's the thing. To me, if you look at Curl's numbers, he's very much like Edmonds. He's not a splash play guy.
No.
But he's very reliable. He doesn't miss games. And he's got that team first mentality that Edmonds had. He was a 7th round guy who has turned into a guy who's got real value. He's considered an up-and-comer by all the free agent evaluators. Totally. And I don't watch the Commanders.
I didn't think he would become available. I didn't come him.
Yeah, but I don't watch the Commanders. So I was not that familiar with him. And then
you know why I like him too?
And I started looking at his numbers and his production and what he brings to that team. And they were filled with first-round guys all across the defensive line. But he was like one of their most reliable players. So you don't have to break the bank to make a huge difference in next year's defense if you get the right match and strong safety to pair with Minka Fitzpatrick.
And you know why he also makes a lot of sense? His familiarity with Cole Holcomb means that there's instant chemistry there straight away, and you need chemistry between your middle linebacker and your strong safety to play in a scheme as diverse as what the Steelers play within sub-package.
That's true. It is. I hadn't thought about that, but
that's why. And there's no doubt. Like I think he's the guy. Price, performance, and then like just the I guess the overall chemistry. Like they don't have to sit there and deal with the all the fallout of the Edmonds situation. So, but I loved your article.
Also mentioned Xavier McKinney.
I think he's going to be too expensive. I think what you talked about in your article with the upside in the performance and his age and the pedigree. Yeah. And I know this is getting pedantic, but he's a couple of pounds lighter, I think, on paper than the other blokes. So, and you know me, I want a big hit, Bruce.
Oh yeah, I do too. But if you look at his, and I didn't list it in the article because my articles tend to get a little long. His missed tackle percentage, puts him in the top 10 in the NFL at safety. Mm-hmm. He doesn't miss a lot of tackles. I think it was 7.8%. He's a very consistent tackler, and again, the Steelers don't count on their strong safety making a lot of splash plays, but they cannot miss tackles.
So McKinney, to wrap it up, this is going to blow your mind here because I saw the stats with the three blokes, and then we'll add in McKinney. So McKinney is the leader amongst the three other guys with 7% missed tackles. Of course,
I thought it was 7. Yeah, somewhere.
Terrell Edmonds, 8.2.
Close.
Kyle Duggar, 8.3.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to guess what Cameron Curl is?
I'll say 6 something.
8.3.
Oh, they're all right there together.
There's 0.1 difference
between
Duggar, Edmonds, and Cameron Curl.
They're all right there together.
It's so wild.
So, but McKinney was the best of the bunch.
Correct.
For missed tackles, yes.
Yeah. So there you go. That's their stats between these 4 guys are incredible. I think if you look at the price for the performance, I think Cameron Curl comes out on top, and you look at the familiarity with Cole Holcomb. But
well, me and you both agree that they desperately got to upgrade that position.
There's no point. This is one of those elements where you said,
I think they could get Edmonds cheaper. Because I think if they give him some, because of what happened last year, if they give him some security, with a multi-year deal, they could get him on a really good price. And we know he's already got chemistry with Fitzpatrick, with his teammates. They all love him. It might be the way to go if they can work it out. But it's the one thing that you don't have to break the bank, and you don't have to use a high draft pick. There's one guy especially me and you really like. But I think he's going to be drafted too high for the Steelers because they have to address the offensive line with the early picks.
Omar Khan, as you said in our previous segment, will trade back in and get James Williams at the start of the third.
Hey, I'm all for it. Outside the box, baby. Outside the box.
That's it. Fix the line first. Anyway, with that, this is going to wrap up all of our Steelers Global content for this weekend. Awesome to chat with my man, Shannon White. As always, go Steelers.